This is Steve with Rocky Mountain ATV EMC, and today I'm going to show you how to rebuild the bottom end on a Yamaha Banshee. There could be a number of reasons why you need to rebuild the bottom end on your engine. Whether you have a bad crankshaft, crank bearings, maybe some shifting issues or transmission issues. So today I'm going to show you how to do that on this 93 Yamaha Banshee. Now the procedures that I'm going to show you will be very similar on all Yamaha Banshees from 87 to 2006, but you need to check your service manual to be sure. To do this job, you'll need some basic hand tools, a torque wrench, rags, safety glasses, and gloves. You'll also need some specialty tools like a flywheel puller, a piston pin puller, a clutch holding tool, snap ring pliers, and a copy of your OEM service manual for more information, proper procedures, and specs. As for parts, a bottom end rebuild requires a new crankshaft, gaskets, transmission bearings, and oil seals. We are also replacing the pistons, and we're going to install a Pro Design Easy Drain water pump cover. The first thing you need to do is make sure your machine's clean. You don't want dirt getting into places that you don't want dirt to get into. Next, we'll remove the seat, plastics, fuel tank, and we're going to drain the coolant and oil. Turn off your fuel valve and use a rag to catch any excess fuel when removing the fuel line. After that, we can remove the exhaust, coolant bottle and air box, followed by the carburetors and spark plug caps. Now we can remove the clutch cable, foot pegs, brake lever, and shift lever. Next, we can remove the left side ignition cover along with the sprocket and chain. We can now remove the flywheel using our flywheel holder tool and a flywheel puller. You might need a friend to help you do this job. After that, let's go underneath the motor and remove the two bolts that hold the torsion rods to the motor. Then we'll remove the front and rear motor mount bolts. Let's unplug our stator wires. Once we've got our bolts removed, let's remove the engine from the right side of the frame. You may need a buddy to help you. We've got our engine out of our frame. Now you can do the full disassembly of your motor using a table and just some blocks of wood, or you can go ahead and mount it up to one of these motorsport stands. That's what we've chosen to do today because it makes it extremely easy to work on the motor as you can rotate it around while you're doing that. And you can pick up one of these on our website. Let's start our engine disassembly by removing the stator first. Use a flat blade screwdriver to push on the rubber grommet to remove the stator wires. Now let's go ahead and remove the keyway. Just be careful when you do it. So now we're ready to remove the top end. We have a really good in-depth how-to video on removal and replacing the top end on your Banshee. If you need more information, check that out. But to give you a quick rundown, we're going to go ahead and remove the reeds, radiator hose, head, both cylinders, and both pistons. Now remember, when you pull the cylinders off, make sure to catch the piston so that the rod or the piston doesn't hit the case. That could cause an air leak down the road, and you don't want that. Next, let's remove the kickstart lever and the clutch cover. We've got the clutch cover off now. Make sure to get the dowel pin. Now the water tube that goes through the engine case, we need to remove that. There's a metal retaining clip right here that we need to remove, and the O-ring, and then we can slide it out the backside. After we get that off, we can now remove the clutch. We'll start with the pressure plate, the clutch pack, the inner hub, and the outer basket. Before we remove the clutch basket, we need to break the driven gear nut loose. To do that, we're going to use a folded up rag, stick it between the gear of the clutch basket and the driven gear, and we're going to pinch that between it. That'll lock it in place, then we can break it loose. Now we'll simply remove the nut in both gears. Don't forget the keyway. Next, we can remove the shift shaft and shifting mechanism. After that, we can remove the cam bearing stopper plate. Now we're ready to split the cases. How we're going to do that is break all the nuts and bolts loose a quarter turn at a time, but we need to follow Yamaha's bolt procedure. Now we're going to flip the motor over and do the other side. Now that we've got all the nuts and bolts broke loose on both sides of the engine case, we can go ahead and remove them all. To split the cases, we need to remove it from the engine stand, and we need to go ahead and remove the clutch push lever first. Then we can use a rubber mallet and go ahead and tap on the front side and the back side of the upper case and break them loose and then pull it apart. Now when you're splitting the cases, you need to be careful pulling it away so that the rods don't swing down and hit the engine case and damage it. Once you get the case off, we can go ahead and pull the crank out, the main shaft and counter shaft of the transmission, and then we can go ahead and pull the shift forks and shift drum out. When you're doing this, make sure to pull the bearing locating clips. To remove the shift forks, we need to remove the retaining plate and retaining bolt. After that, we can remove the shift fork locating pin circlips. Then we can slide the shift forks, locating pins, and shift drum out. Next, we need to pull out all the old oil seals out of our engine cases. Anytime you're disassembling an engine, it's always best to stay clean and organized. This will help with the cleaning, inspection, and reassembly process of your engine. This is part 1 of our Yamaha Banshee bottom end rebuild. If you need help with inspection or assembly, check out our other videos in this series.